Lassie Farm here. This will be episode 11. The Merchant and the Alchemist Gate. And I've got Lucky Rabbit here. Want a treat, buddy? The GoPro doesn't do so good in low light, but... well, there you are, buddy. Yeah. Good boy. From where we left off, we're near the end of the story here. A man entered the room, and who should it be but Bassarat, 20 years younger than when I'd seen him in Baghdad. "Welcome, my lord," he said. "I am Bassarat." "You do not know me?" I asked. "No. You must have met my older self. For me, this is our first meeting. But it is my honor to assist you. Your Majesty, as befits this chronicle of my shortcomings, I must confess that so immersed was I in my own woes during the journey from Baghdad, I had not previously realized that Bassarat had likely recognized me from the moment I stepped into his shop. Even as I was admiring his water clock and the brass songbird, he had known that I would travel to Cairo, and likely whether I had achieved my goal or not. The Bassarat I spoke to now knew none of these things. "I am doubly grateful for your kindness, sir," I said. "My name is Fuad ibn Abbas, newly arrived from Baghdad." Bassarat's son took his leave, and Bassarat and I conferred. I asked him the day and month, confirming that there was ample time for me to travel back to the City of Peace, and promised him that I would tell him everything when I returned. His younger self was as gracious as his older. "I look forward to speaking with you on your return, and to assisting you again 20 years from now," he said. His words gave me pause. "Had you planned to open a shop in Baghdad before today?" "Why do you ask?" I had been marveling at the coincidence that we met in Baghdad just in time for me to make my journey here, use the gate, and travel back. But now I wonder if it is perhaps not a coincidence at all. Is my arrival here today the reason that you will move to Baghdad 20 years from now? Bassarat smiled. "Coincidence and intention are two sides of a tapestry, my lord. You may find one more agreeable to look at, but you cannot say that one is true and that the other is false. Now as ever, you have given me much to think about," I said. I thanked him and bid farewell. As I was leaving his shop, I passed a woman entering with some haste. I heard Bassarat greet her as Ranaya, and I stopped in surprise. From just outside the door, I could hear the woman say, "I have the necklace. I hope my older self has not lost it." "I am sure you will have kept it safe in anticipation of your visit," said Bassarat. I noticed that this was Ranaya from the story Bassarat had told me. She was on her way to collect her older self so they might return to the days of their youth, confound some thieves with a doubled necklace, and save their husband. For a moment I was unsure if I was dreaming or awake, because I felt as if I had stepped into a tale, and the thought that I might talk to its players and partake of its events was dizzying. I was tempted to speak and see if I might play a hidden role in that tale, but then I remembered that my goal was to play a hidden role in my own tale. So I left without a word and went to arrange passage with a caravan. "It is said, your Majesty, that fate laughs at men's schemes. At first it appeared as if I were the most fortunate of men, for a caravan headed for Baghdad was departing within the month, and I was able to join it. In the weeks that followed, I began to curse my luck, though, because the caravan's journey was plagued by delays. The wells at a town not far from Cairo were excuse me, were dry, and an expedition had to be sent back just for water. At another village, the soldiers protecting the caravan contracted dysentery, and then we had to wait for weeks for their recovery. With each delay, I revised my estimate of when we'd reach Baghdad and grew increasingly anxious. Then there were the sandstorms, which seemed like a warning from Allah, and truly caused me to doubt the wisdom of my actions. We had the good fortune to be resting at a oasis west of Kufa when the sandstorms first struck, but our stay was prolonged from days to weeks, as time and time again the skies became clear only to darken again as soon as the camels were reloaded. The day of Naja's accident was fast approaching, and I grew desperate. I solicited each of the camel drivers in turn, trying to hire one of them to take me ahead alone, but could not persuade any of them. Eventually I found one willing to sell me a camel at what could have been an exorbitant price under ordinary circumstances, but which I was all too willing to pay. Then I struck out on my own. It will come as no surprise that I made little progress in the storm, but when the wind subsided, I immediately adopted a rapid pace. Without the soldiers that accompanied the caravan, however, I was an easy target for bandits, and sure enough, I was stopped after 2 days' ride. They took my money and the camel I had purchased, but spared my life, whether out of pity or because they could not be bothered to kill me, I do not know. I began walking back to rejoin the caravan, but now the skies tormented me with their cloudlessness, and I suffered from the heat. By the time the caravan found me, my tongue was swollen and my lips were as cracked as mud baked by the sun. After that, I had no choice but to accompany the caravan at its usual pace. Like a fading rose that drops its petals one by one, my hopes dwindled with each passing day. By the time the caravan reached the City of Peace, I knew it was too late, but the moment we rode through the gates, I asked the city guardsmen if they had heard of a mosque collapsing. The first guardsman I spoke to had not, and for a heartbeat, I dared to hope that I had misremembered the date of the accident and that I had in fact arrived in time. Then another guardsman told me that a mosque had indeed collapsed just yesterday. His words struck me with the force of an executioner's axe. I had traveled so far only to receive the worst news of my life a second time. I walked to the mosque and saw the piles of bricks where there had once been a wall. It was a scene that had haunted my dreams for 20 years, but now the image remained even after I opened my eyes. And with a clarity sharper than I could endure, I turned away and walked without aim, blind to what was around me, till I found myself before my old house, the one where Naj and I had lived. I stood in the street in front of it, filled with memory and anguish. And we got just one more episode to go here. Thanks for watching.